secrets locked away from us in a vault, never to see the light of day. Things that we will never know from just watching the edited show put in front of us on television. And thankfully for us today, the official DVD and Blu-ray releases of each season of Survivor contain quite a lot of secrets that you would never know about from just watching the TV show. And that is what this video will be diving into today, as some of these secrets are game related, some are personal thoughts, some are just plain silly, and we will even find out how and why Survivor has changed their challenges over the years, and hear from Nick some of the confessionals they did not air when he was voting for others. As long as it isn't part of the show aired on television, it is fair game to be considered a secret. While most of the secrets here are focused on season 37, David versus Goliath, some of them do apply to Survivor as a whole. And so with that, I want to thank you for watching what I make and ultimately supporting what I do here with liking, commenting, and sharing. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all of this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. Thank you for your support. To be clear, there is so much good stuff locked away in these extra features, and it's a lot. So to feature every single thing would be far too much for one video. I do recommend you watching them in full for yourself. However, this list contains the secrets that I personally found to be the most interesting. So with that, let's count all 42 of them in absolutely no particular order.
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
Number 1. As we learned when the tribes were swapped up and the mayor of Slamtown, Hot Cop Dan, and Christian the Mad Scientist were all combined into one tribe, they formed the Brochachos. And on the Brochachos, I'm a bit surprised to find out that Christian is actually just as fit as the rest of them.
Yeah. That's not a full one. All the way down. That's legit. I'll do one. This is not something I'm particularly used to.
Number 2. Now the Brochachos are recruiting, and I wasn't completely aware of this, and I don't think I can do everything they ask. But you are likely cooler than me and can become a part of the Brochachos yourself. So here are the rules to being a Brochacho.
Rule number 1. Brochachos must always do their pull-ups. Rule number 2. Brochacho's hair must always be on point. Rule number 3. Brochacho must always maintain his mad skills. Do it! Rule number 4 of being a Brochacho is the word Brochacho is ambiguous.
Brochachos don't eat gazpacho.
Number 3. In a humorous moment at Ponderosa, we learn that Gabby assumed that since she is cold, the mayor of Slamtown, who is massive, might be the perfect person to cuddle with for warmth. As it turns out, this isn't the case, and John needed Gabby instead.
I thought, like, okay, I'm gonna sleep next to John, he's gonna be warm because he's a big guy, and I would sleep next to him and be like, this is a slab of concrete. It's actually sucking the heat away from me. And John would be like this huge guy shivering, and he'd be like, I'm so cold. And I'd be like, John, you're like twice my size. Yeah, he'd be like, Gabby, please wrap yourself around me.
Number 4. So when the mayor of Slamtown was on the season, he talked a little bit about how he was doing wrestling gigs down in Mexico, but as of 2020, he made his return to the WWE, and I'm gonna show you some highlights from him as well in his return to the show.
Topping up 3 here in WWE. Former Intercontinental Champion, 5-time Tag Team Champion. Painful to experience for his opponents. And look at that! Morrison isn't enough to put big... There it is! Starship Pain from John Morrison.
Number 5. Over the years, Survivor challenges have changed and have been tweaked to be better and better for television. Back in the day, they would get really physical, and sometimes they'd be all about endurance, and there was this one time in Marquesas where they literally flew kites. So in this behind the scenes interview, John, the guy who's in charge of making the challenges, explains the evolution of Survivor challenges and why there is now always a puzzle at the end.
That's part of the evolution of challenges. I watched challenges from the past, and up until like season 13, 14, we used to just have run, do all these obstacles, cross the finish line, first one's across the finish line. Now we always, for an immunity challenge, have a test of skill or a puzzle so that we have a chance for a come from behind victory.
Some type of equalizer at the end, right? Where even if you're ahead, someone else can still catch up.
Number 6. Every now and again, we learn more and more about the Dream Team in the Survivor secrets. Well, here we get a pretty recent update from John about how many people are on it and how many apply and what exactly they do.
I have 21 young men and women every year who test and rehearse all of our challenges. They also help paint and set things up. They're awesome. I get this year we went through 80 different applications. I had 6 positions for Dream Team, and I have to watch every application. You know, we make them. You have to do a video and send a resume, and then it's a grueling process going through all of these things to pick a handful of people, and they're named after the greatest basketball team in the Olympic Dream Team.
Number 7, out of everyone who lost weight this season, Davey ends up beating them all with 36 pounds, which just blows Christian's mind as to how this is possible.
I'm skinny again. 176.80.
That is 6 pounds nearly.
Oh my God, dude.
Wow.
36 pounds. I was like, what thing? Davey lost a pound per day. I don't know how that's possible. Is he actually alive? Is he some kind of zombified remains? It's all making sense. How? Did he bite me?
Number 8, an underrated thing that happens on the show that I think we kind of like forget about is the tribal councils built for the finale and the reunion. They're completely temporary, and I would love to know how long do they take to make, how much do they cost, and unfortunately these are not the kinds of questions that are being asked by the interviewer, but we do find out how they are allowed to have all that fire inside of the studio.
There's things like, I mean, this bit here is different than this bit because it's fireproof, sort of thing, you know. And there's, like, if we have a plant that's starting to come up, we have to move it or snip it back. Everything, including the leaves, are all sprayed with fireproofing stuff, so everything has to get covered. Anything that's burnable is fire retardant.
So wait. What's real? Like, are any of the stones real?
There are real stones. That's a real stone. A lot of the plants are real. And speaking of things that are real, there's a certain amount of stuff we send back from location. We send a couple of containers worth of things back.
Number 9, here we go. Jeff Probst gives his pre-game takes on each survivor, and while he has been famously bad in the past as to how he thinks players will do, he kind of moves away from that this season by focusing more on why each person was cast instead of how he thinks they will do on the show. Like, for example, what he thinks about Gabby.
Gabby is, some would say, a female Cochrane or another version of Aubrey. She's got a nerdy side to her, but the truth is she's really smart, so socially she's excellent. I think Gabby, especially if she bonds with some Davids, could be a threat.
Number 10. I am not sure if this next secret is a reason Elizabeth was cast, but either way, I find this to be funny, and now I want to know why. And should I wear a cowboy hat to mine?
Elizabeth was one of my favorites the minute she walked in. I like everything about her. I love that she gave birth in her cowboy hat, that it's that important to her.
Number 11. Where did the theme of David versus Goliath even come from? I mean, the answer is obviously the Bible, but what I mean is, why did Survivor pick it for the season? Well, Jeff says one player on this cast actually inspired the entire theme for this season.
Pat Cusack is actually the guy that inspired the David versus Goliath idea. He told us his story about growing up with nothing, with a mother who was paralyzed and a dad who wasn't around, and paycheck to paycheck. For me, it was absolutely must be on the show. That's the guy you root for. He deserves a shot.
Number 12. At the finale, before any results are revealed, Jeff is asked, who would you bring back for a future season from this cast? Now, he says 2 players right away, which I agree with both choices.
I think the people that I think you would think of coming back right off the bat would be this guy, Christian.
Sure.
Because he's just so relatable, and he's that person that you at home you look at and go, with all respect to Christian, you go, man, if he can do it, maybe I could do it. I also really like Angelina. A really strong woman with a strong point of view. She's been polarizing. People have criticized her for not being aware, but she doesn't back down from who she is.
Now, for me personally, add Davey and Gabby to that, and we are golden. Number 13. On Rob Has a Podcast, Angelina was interviewed about her time on the show, and she claims that whole opening of her in the first episode, where she's laughing at the Davids and being condescending towards them, is all completely made up, supposedly.
Opening scene, the very first scene of me is completely fabricated.
Yes?
Completely fabricated. They showed me laughing at a moment when we were laughing about something completely else. Christian had been talking and made a really charming, funny joke, typical Christian. And I start laughing. And if you look at the scene closely, you see Allison and Natalia also laughing.
Number 14. Okay, let me reset your brain back to when the Davids made some major moves in the post-merge to potentially take the entire game over. Let's recall how Dan was just voted off after his idol was nullified in a 6-3-2 vote, and Alec and Kara flipped after Nick stole a vote to make it appear that they were on the same page with the Davids when they were clearly not. In a secret scene back at camp, camp that night, Alec admits this to us that he wasn't on the same page with the Davids. He just wanted to fake it to make it look like he was, but completely lies his butt off to the Davids to save face.
Tonight at Tribal, the Goliaths are all unified, and then when Nick stole the vote, we flipped and we voted Angelina. I hope you do trust me in the future, because tonight I voted the way I said I was.
I got you.
He voted for Angelina.
I understand that.
Number 15. Now you may remember how Natalie and Jeremy had a feud in the pre-merge on the Goliath tribe, and as it turns out, this was partially fueled by Jeremy spreading rumors that would ruin people's lives just from others believing him, even though they're not true.
Jay viciously running his mouth about what he thought was going on with Angelina and John, which even if it was, it's none of his business. And if it wasn't, why make up a vicious lie? This is a lose-lose situation. It's just not something you do. You're playing with people's lives.
Number 16. In a secret scene, Mike says before he came on the show, he read a book about building shelter, and he didn't think he would be the most knowledgeable about this on his own tribe. But hey, they're here in Fiji, and the camp is sucking. Oh, and it's raining, so he decides he has to take the lead and hopefully get them to have a shelter that can actually keep them dry. But for some reason, Jeremy decides to fight him about this.
Leave that there.
No, we're moving on with everything.
Hey, first of all, you've been here like 5 minutes. So let's leave up what we had.
Dude, I put this up myself.
No, you did.
Yes, I did, dude.
Number 17. This is a secret scene that happened during episode 3, so at least 2 solid episodes before the infamous Jacket and Eggs episode. But anyways, the thing is, people are already eyeing Natalie's coat before she ever even left the game and wanted to take it from her when she got voted out. I'm sure she loved the thought of people being like, well, Natalie's gonna go soon, so I should get her jacket.
Natalie, if you do have to leave, can you give me your coat?
Number 18. After Natalie is voted out though, she explains in her final words why exactly she did not give her jacket to Angelina.
I didn't give Angelina my jacket because I was unsure as to whether or not she was a part of whatever occurred to have me voted out. I'm trying not to say conspiracy because I don't think that it was that. So asking for my jacket, I didn't know if she was a part of the reason why I'm out. So I just didn't feel like dealing with it and I chose not to.
Number 19. I'm not sure if you knew this, but Kara and Alec fell for each other on the island, and even as recent as late 2019 were dating. Now I could not find anything more recent about their relationship, so I am unsure if they're still together, but yeah, something blossomed out there, and here's Alec to explain how it started.
The first 10 days I didn't really like her. And then it was day 15 we got swapped. They'll swap the tribes. And then it was there though that we were able to have a conversation off camera, which was like, it was just really special. And then we talked about like life. I'm like, oh, she's super rad. And then as we progressed, they started in the confessionals, they started alluding to the fact that like, you guys get along really well, man. I don't know.
Number 20. Kara then tells a pretty funny story about the first time that they ever told each other that they are in love, and it is insanely sweet and romantic. And this is the kind of way I hope you all confess your love to your significant other when it becomes the right time.
Yeah, May 7th was the first light kiss, and then in June, and I was leaving a voicemail, I was like, okay, love you. Whoa!
I still have it, dude. It's so funny. Like, oh, okay, I love you. Whoa, okay, bye. She starts laughing.
And we got to laugh about it.
Number 21. As you may recall, Kara's game ended with no votes against her, but that final fire-making duel at the Final Four did her in. So what happened? Kara said she was making perfect fires back at camp, but then it came crunch time and everything came crashing down on her.
So I made like 5 perfect fires at camp. They were all lighting in no time. Even Mike was looking at me like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to compete with this chick. And I'm like going into it, I'm like, I've got this. And then we walk into the challenge. We're now at Tribal Council, which is kind of this like Coliseum feeling. I was practicing with this huge machete at camp, so it's a complete adjustment. I had never made a fire like that. And there I like chopped my finger more than I chopped that stupid flint. And then for like a huge portion of it, I was using the wrong side of the knife. Just like,
I wanted to, I think almost the other side.
Number 22. Who knew the George Bushy of Tushy was getting married right after Survivor? If he did say it during the show, I completely forgot. Well, during his time at Ponderosa, he goes around asking the local Fijian women, who are, by the way, very flattered, for tips on dances and what to put in his vows.
What's the Fijian dance?
Turn it over. Right there.
That way?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm a terrible dancer. I could do that.
Number 23, Davey. What a character. And a surprising twist to not only myself, but to Rob Sesternino as well during this interview. Davey revealed on Rob's podcast that he actually went to the same church as someone from season 6.
What's funny is the woman who was a member of my church, my mom was her boss.
Okay.
And that woman is actually from your season, and her name is Joanna Ward.
Yes.
Crazy hallelujah, lady.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Oh, glory.
Number 24, Carl did not like Elizabeth. We see it in a secret scene, and he is part of the catalyst of why she's even voted out. But Davey actually knows the origins of why this is, and it has to do with Elizabeth wanting to make a good game move to help the Davids, and Carl just not liking that.
Believe it or not, Elizabeth pitched the idea of us throwing a challenge.
Yeah, because there's 3 Davids and 2 Goliaths, right?
Yeah, but Carl, again, being maybe not a diehard fan of the game, he's a competitor, and he just really wasn't going for that. Mm-hmm. One thing that Carl did that I really was pretty mad at him about, he tells Alec about Elizabeth wanting to throw a challenge, and I think that's something that was a snowball effect to, Elizabeth getting out of the game once we hit merge.
Number 25. Over the years, Survivor has grown and changed in many ways while still maintaining the core of what makes it so fascinating to watch. Some of us want the show to return to its roots, and some like that the game is ever changing, and as it turns out, Christian is one of those people too.
This is the science of Survivor.
For Jeff, this is for Jeff too, because if he puts a new twist in the game, if you know something about how it's going to work, like we're talking about this, Carl. Your idol nullifier. Is that good for the game, bad for the game? It's great that you found it, because you're able to turn around the Goliaths. So there's variance in how well it performs, right? But if the same thing happened every season on Survivor, how interesting is that?
I would not watch it.
You would not watch it.
Maybe 3 seasons.
So maybe a few seasons. Normally you have a whole wall of whiteboards, but this is Survivor. You make things work. You dig deep to find space where you didn't think it was possible before.
Number 26. Now this varies player to player, but I always wondered how long someone is given a heads up that they will be on Survivor to the time that they actually fly out there. Since Davey was an alternate, yes, he was an alternate, he wasn't even supposed to be on the show, he had no idea he would be playing until literally the day before. But for Christian, he had a solid 4 weeks heads up.
About 28 days before I went out there, approximately, is when I got the call saying, Christian, you're on. And I'm oddly calm with this phone call, but mostly because I'm contemplating how I'm going to tell my boss what's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that. That's how long in advance, and it was very scary.
Number 27. When it came down to vote for a winner at Final Tribal, many of us were baffled as to why Christian voted for Mike White over his alliance member in Nick, aka the other half of the Mason-Dixon alliance. In this interview, he explains why.
He kind of committed to this character for 39 days of this guy who's just there for the experience. But Mike committed to a character for 39 days to the point where he voted for me twice.
Yeah.
And yet still found a way to wrap me back in to wanting to work with him. And so I went up to Mike and I said, hey, Mike, I know you voted for me, but just so you know, I never lied to you in this whole game, and I won't start. And he picked up the football and he said, okay, Christian, here's what we're going to do. We're going to meet every single night in the middle of the night down on the beach and talk every night so no one sees. And so he really led to me to believe that, just in a very subtle way, but in a way that wasn't overly, it was just very convincing in a way that I was like, I should know better. And that's just how he tricked me. That's how he tricked me. That's one aspect of it.
Number 28. If you listen to enough Rob as a podcast, you learn that the worst thing ever when being on the island is not the lack of food, or the lack of sleep, or the lack of water, or the bugs, or the paranoia from everyone possibly talking about you, or even actually being voted out of the game. But it is something else entirely, which we even see in a secret scene.
It's first off, just the whole events of Pat getting medevac it just felt so traumatic. I mean, the first 3 days we were just poured on constantly already. So we're in the throes of the game and it's new, and we're being rained on a lot, which is the thing that sucks most on Survivor, as I believe you warned us about.
I've long said that.
Yeah,
yes.
And I can confirm, by far the worst thing is the rain. By far, everything.
Number 29. If Jeff wants to get an answer out of someone at Tribal Council, he's going to push and prod until he gets his way. Now, he wasn't always like this, just watch the early seasons as proof, but nowadays he has the power and he knows it. And as a result, it can be hard not to reveal too much. However, Christian figured out one way to completely avoid answering Jeff's questions without him even realizing it.
One thing I will say for those Tribal Council speeches, I was worried about them coming to air because I didn't want people to be like, oh, this guy just loves making analogies.
Yeah.
And so strategically, doing those analogies, that was my way of not answering Jeff's questions. When I start those analogies, I don't know how they're going to end. I have the first half of them planned.
Yeah.
You actually see me if you watch that Tribal Council, Jess is talking right before I say that. I'm sort of bobbing my head back and forth. I'm working out the analogy in that moment because I knew I needed to deploy an analogy here. So that way Jeff doesn't ask me another question.
Number 30. This next secret is pretty simple and straightforward, but here's Christian's analysis on his downfall, why it happened, and what his greatest weakness in the game was.
My biggest mistakes, I think my biggest mistake of the game was not recognizing what a potential loyal ally I had in Davey and really embracing that as a final option. And instead having had embraced Mike as more of a final option, as a guy who maybe didn't want the $1 million.
Number 31. Tony and Sandra aren't the only players to hide in places to try to catch people talking about them. You may even recall Boo did this in season 14, but we aren't talking about season 14, as in his final words that Davey reveals that he did this as well and totally got caught.
I mean, I freaking hid in the woods and waited on my name. I mean, I didn't hear my name, but it's probably because Kara saw me hiding in the woods and she went back and told everybody Davey's hiding in the woods. Be careful what you say.
Number 32. Many of us dream of going on extravagant vacations, marrying that perfect someone, or maybe just playing Survivor while Jeff Probst demands that we dig deep, woman. Well, for Gabby, her dream is a bit different.
When else am I gonna have two buff, hot guys carting me around? Oh my gosh, dream come true on multiple levels.
Number 33. Rumors were floating around while David vs. Goliath aired that had Pat not been medevaced in episode 1, Nick was a lock to be voted out. Davey actually clarifies what exactly the Davids were thinking in episode 1, which I put a lot more weight into than the rumors that were floating around online.
I'm gonna tell you right now, 100%, Nick would not have been the one to go.
Oh!
100%, dude. Now, I will say I'm not sure if it would have been Pat or Larissa, but I think it would have been one of them.
Number 34. Nick loved to make alliances this season, but even more so is he loved to name them. As it turns out, not every named alliance made the show, and some of these may have been for a good reason.
I want everyone to call me Kentucky. I'm like, dude, I'm not calling you Kentucky. Your mama named you Nick. I'm going to call you Nick. So what he wanted to do was he wanted to combine Kentucky with Davey in a name. The alliance name he presented to me was Kentavy. He was like, yeah, man, we could be Kentavy. I'm like, what? I'm not going on national TV with an alliance name called Kentavy.
Number 35. I don't know if you know this, but Angelina got rice for her tribe. Also, she used a ladder to climb 50 feet to get an idol. She almost died. Now, she hasn't mentioned any of these things at all, so you may have forgotten, which is why I'm reminding you. But who can forget when Davey wins the reward and is picking people to go with him, and she brings up this oft-forgotten thing she did, getting rice for her entire tribe. But as it turns out, this was the reason he didn't pick her.
But I think I got a little angry with Angelina just because her reasoning. If she had, I kind of wish she wouldn't have said the rice at all. If she would have just been like, baby, I've had your bag. You're my friend. Whatever decision you choose, I don't care. I probably would have chosen her. But because she brought up the rice and she was like, I did this for you. I'm like, no, you didn't do that for me. You did it for the tribe. And it's a selfless act. You don't have to keep bringing it up. So yeah.
Number 36. I love it when superfans get on the show. While this is a bit more applicable to season 29, Mike White is actually the reason there wasn't Redemption Island that season. Thank you, Mike. But for season 37, I wanted to highlight some of the people you may or may not have guessed were superfans. And this isn't everyone, but I just love to hear when they describe it.
First of all, I'm a Survivor obsessive fanatic. I've watched every episode since the very first one. I love the drama of it, the storytelling. As a writer, I've been captivated by just just the human drama.
Emily is a huge part of my Survivor fandom. We listen to podcasts together in the car. We watch every week. In fact, one of the first things we did together when we started dating was watch Survivor.
I am a huge fan of this game. I've seen nearly every season. I've studied it. And the reason that I like it so much is because someone like me can actually win.
Number 37. Mike White may write comedy movies, but he can get dark. Oh, he can get real dark. Thematically, Survivor is a lot like Lord of the Flies, and voting someone out of the game is a bit like killing them off. But Mike seems to enjoy this idea a bit too much.
Survivor allows you to like get out your sort of homicidal impulses in like a healthy, non-illegal way. But like, there's a part of me that wants to get the like out of my system.
Number 38. Christian works on robots, and he is that guy who's going to be ushering in the robot apocalypse, but not intentionally. But in the meantime, he has no evil intentions. But his explanation of what he wants robots to do is making me want to build an EMP for when they do take over.
First one is we want robots that can go everywhere that people go. We designed our lives, outside of Fiji here, in urban settings around robots, around things with two legs. We walk upstairs, we jump off curbs, we do things like that. But for me, it's just such an interesting puzzle, personally, that here's something that we as people can do that robots so far can't do nearly as well. And this just sort of bugs me to my core as a puzzle as to how do we sort of imbue robots with that same capability.
Number 39. Dan is a cop. You probably already knew this, but I wanted to give that context as it is important for this next secret. Since he works in Florida, namely where the Florida Gators are, he commonly has to work where the parties take place, and the college women can get a little handsy.
There's been a time or two where I've gone to parties. There's typically a lot of girls there. Maybe once or twice I've been mistaken for a stripper. They try to unbutton your shirt. I'm like, listen, ladies, you got, number one, there's not buttons, there's a zipper under here. That's problem number one. Number two, I'm actually the real police. This is a real gun and a real badge. That's a real police car out there.
Number 40. Good voting confessionals seem to be becoming a thing of the past. Due to Survivor not only wanting to surprise the players, but surprise us as well. Here, Nick talks about some of his voting confessionals that he likes that we never saw.
Jessica's was pretty, I shouldn't go there. Do you remember on Jessica's exit interview, she told you who was the best cuddler on the daily camp?
Yes.
She said it was me. So when I voted her out, I said, only my girlfriend is allowed to cuddle me like that.
Oh.
That was kind of mean. The one for John was the best, especially if you're a wrestling fan. John's like, we are the torch snuffers. Like, we snuff everybody's torch that tries to cross us. So I said, I was like, hey, brother, you call yourself a torch snuffer, but your torch is about to get snuffed because you lied to me to my face. And that's the bottom line, because Kentucky Nick said so or something like that.
Number 41. After Nick found his advantage to steal a vote, Gabby had no idea and enlisted him to help her in her conquest to find it. Since he didn't want to tell her yet that he had it, he needed to play dumb and search with her.
Where Gabby came to me with the information of the clue at the merch feast, and she was like, do you remember a picture on the napkins at the merch feast? I was like, no, I don't think so. And she was like, yeah, remember the picture by where we got the bus and then it was on our napkins? I was like, no, I don't think so. And she's like, yeah, I'm telling you, it looked like this, it was different colors. I was like, nah, I don't think that's right. And so we went and looked for the advantage together after I'd already found it. And I felt pretty bad about that.
Number 42. This one is short and sweet, but before Survivor, Dan was the hot cop meme. I'm not sure if you remember this. And I bet this is a part of why he was picked for the show. So which secret blew your mind the most? Comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content you see here, then please consider supporting me and this channel on Patreon. Your financial support makes this all possible. So thank you, and thank you for watching.